Welcome back to another video about Masamune, where I made a little bit of progress and I wanted to show you something and also discuss maybe something, a feature that could be maybe implemented in a better way. I'm not 100% sure, but let's give you a little bit of an update. So what I did so far, or since the last time where I was showing the combat system, I added now some missing collision, which was they're available in the tiled maps. Also, I fixed the different layers, so now you can really go behind the house. Before, the house was always in the background, so you were simply running in front of it. Then most of the trees had the same issue, and they also did not have any collision. I think the flowers here also did not have a collision. And yeah, this is just, that was already a working feature, but I was just too lazy to implement all the different collision shapes to the game. But now that is done, and actually that is really quite easy and fast to do now, because as you know it from all my past videos now, I mainly use tiled as the editor here for the tiled maps, and it's rather simple to add some collision now, because it's simply just the tile set that you have. And for example, when I click on one of these tiles, let me zoom in here again, then I can simply add any collision shapes that I want. It could be a rectangle, could also be a polygon or whatever shape. Everything is supported. And then all of it is simply loaded to the game. And for example, if I want to use this column, let's say here, then it's very easy, because there's a button which is called Detect Bounding Box. And I think it simply surrounds all the pixels which are not transparent, and in that case that would already be good enough. And I simply just need to click on the tile, click on this button, maybe do some minor adjustments if I need to, and then save it, and then the collision for those different tiles is already in the game. So that's really easy to do. Let me remove that, or let me revert that here back, because most likely the column, only the bottom part would have collision, and then those two upper parts would most likely have no collision, and they are simply in the foreground so that the player can go behind them. But yeah, that's the process of creating the collision shapes in the tiled maps. It's just going to the tile set, clicking this button, and maybe do minor adjustments. So that's really fast and easy to do. And I added that now for the first two maps, so all of that is now available. Then I made a little bit of an animation when the player is getting an item. So for example, when you talk to the elder, which is giving you the first main quest, he gives you his sword, and there at the end of the dialogue, I think it should be here now, there's this little pop-up here. So the player is playing a special animation that he is receiving an item. The item icon itself is coming down, and there's some rainbow text which mentions what kind of item you got. And now we have that available. So there's also a feature in place which I have currently. So if you get an equipment item and you don't have it, at least for example, for a quest item, like in this case, then it automatically gets equipped. And there we see, when we go to the statues, we see our constitution has now a bonus of 5, the intelligence a bonus of 1, and our attack a bonus of 3. The constitution itself also increased our life. And yeah, these here are the bonus points from the elder sword that we have. And finally, but that one I will show in the test class itself, I implemented now the inventory, where I'm not 100% happy with how it controls, but it's mainly because the user interface, I just use assets that I have available, and I'm not an artist. So that is I would say the part that I'm not 100% happy about. It could be a little bit better, but the important part, it's working and the functionality is available. So basically, when you go, let me go outside again. When you go into the inventory, you have at the top right, you have two options. You have the items itself, where currently we don't have anything, so there is nothing shown in this item list here. And we have the equipment. So these are the things that we can really equip, and which gives us then some bonus stats or whatever. And the way it's working on the items, let me quickly buy something that you see that. Oh wait, I finished the game and I wrote here an S. Let me quickly go to the merchant, because there we can buy, I think, some cheap potions. like 2 mana potions, 2 health potions. That's it. Let's save it. Okay. And now if we go into the inventory, so now under items, you see the different items that you have available. If you can consume a specific item, then there is this blinking animation so that the player knows that he can also use that right now. And in that case, for example, if we would not have our maximum mana, we could consume it. So I simply press it now. Now it's consumed. It plays a little health sound effect in the background that you also hear that something was happening. And our mana points in that case would have been replenished. Same with the life potions. So those are consumables. There are also other items that cannot be consumed in the inventory. For example, items that can only be used in the combat. And they don't have then this blinking information text here. And yeah, again, then we have the equipment itself. And there it opens up the different equipment types that the game currently has. So I have planned that you can carry a weapon, you have an armor, you have a helmet, boots, and an accessory. And I'm not sure, maybe I add actually 2 accessories, so maybe 2 rings or amulet and a ring. And I think that's it. So those are the items that I will roll with at the beginning. And there you simply navigate through the different weapon or armor types that you have or equipment types. And then you click on it and then it's the same thing as before. So currently we don't have an item because we did not go here to the Elder now because I restarted the game. Let me quickly get back the Elder Sword. Okay. And now back to the equipment. So there you see now the weapon which is equipped is this one. You also get some information at the bottom right. And also we could remove it now. So that would be called empty, I guess, in English. And it shows you what you will lose when you remove that item. So we will reduce 5 constitution, 1 intelligence, and 3 attack. So if I do that, then immediately we see here constitution is back to 5, intelligence 8, and we don't have any damage anymore. And if we would equip it, that's now the other way around. Then here we would see what kind of bonuses we get from that specific item. So let's equip it again. Then it's gone here and the stats here are updated. There's still an issue, as you can see it here, with the hit points here, which is one of the things that I will talk to in a moment, which is a little bit tricky for me currently to handle that. I know how to, or I would know how to solve it, would need to invest some time, but I'm not sure if I stick to the solution that I currently have in place for the different statistics. But let me come to that in a moment. So let's quit the game here because that was the main... Oh, there's one little update here that was a suggestion from one of my alpha testers. So this little girl here, the flower girl now, it will always heal you. There's a little bit of an effect plate. This purple restoration. So when you are damaged in battle and you don't have any mana or health potions, then at the beginning of the game, this little flower girl here will always restore your health and your mana points to maximum. That's also a tiny little thing that got added. And yeah, I think that's it. Let me open up quickly the inventory test, because there we have done some additional things. So from the items here, for example, this is an Infernal Scroll, which can only be used in combat and deals 50 damage to all the different enemies. And that one cannot be consumed in the inventory. So when I press it, nothing happens. But those here, we already saw them before, the Mana Potion and the Life Potion. Also, when we look here to the hit points, then they can be consumed and used. When they are gone, then they simply disappear. And this is how the normal items will work. I guess also quest items will be shown in here. And for the time being, that's a working solution. I think in the future, if there are a lot of items maybe in the inventory and the game is growing, it might make sense to have here like filters that, I don't know, quest items go first or consumable items go first, something like that. Or that you can sort them by their value, so how much they cost, something like that. And yeah, the second part, as mentioned, was the equipment, but we have seen that already. So initially in this test, it's empty. And then I can equip the different items. And when I go to an existing item, which I have already currently equipped. There we see, of course, I don't get any bonuses. If I remove it, I lose this armor or this attack in that case. And that's it. So for every equipment type, I have added a test item to try it out. And that's it. Good, but coming back now to one of the issues that I currently have. Let me close this one here and let me, how do I start with it? Let me start with explaining what the problem is that I currently have. So it's regarding the attributes, so the stats that the character can have. And the way currently it's working is that in tiled, I have a stats class, which has the different attributes that my game supports. So agility, armor, constitution, damage, And for every character, so in this case for the player, I can assign, for example, in this case, what are the starting attributes that this player has. Then items, of course, they also have the statistics because an item can give a bonus to those stats. And in my game, the character, so the player, of course, is an entity. And the item itself is also an entity. And both of these entities, they will have a stats component, which simply covers the information that I enter here in tiled. And it's working like this. So there is a class, I think it's called tiled stats, if I remember correctly. Yep. And this one here gets also auto-generated from this Gradle class that I mentioned the last time. So it creates everything that I maintain in tiled. And in addition, it creates this isAllNull method to, I'm not sure where I needed that anymore. I forgot it. But at some point, it seems like I needed to know if all attributes are 0. So that method is auto-generated. And null stats object is also created, most likely to avoid some nullable types so that I have some default type and the toString method. That's it. And then I have, as mentioned, a stats component, which is also just an extension to the tiled stats class that we had or that I've shown before. And this one covers then all, I would say, the flat attributes. So, for example, intelligence is 5 or on an item an intelligence bonus of 5. And in addition, I currently did not use that yet, but it would be supported. It's also possible to get some percentage modifications. For example, increase the damage by 100% or by 200%. The idea here was for the combat system that you might have a spell that increases your damage by 300% for 2 turns, for example. And then I need a percentage modifier because if I don't have that at some point, for example, if this buff, which increases the damage for 2 rounds, wears off, then I need to go back to the original value, but still, of course, consider all the other bonuses that might have been applied to the combat entity. So that's why I distinguish between the flat bonus, which would be all of that here, and an additional percentage-based bonus. And with that, at least in combat, I can simply increase and decrease those values, and that is working great. And one additional information is that the player entity from the game screen, so that we have seen before, where I walk around and so on, and the player entity in combat, they are not the same. So for the combat itself, I create a separate combat player entity, and that one has a copy of all the stats. So it has the stats of the player entity in the world, but a copy, so stats of the original stats component. And the reason why I do that is, again, that in combat you could have buffs or whatever which are modifying those stats, but they should not have any impact on the real player in the game world. At the end of the combat, everything should go back to normal. For example, a 200% increase in damage for 3 rounds, that should simply wear off at the end of the combat, and to not struggle maybe with correctly resetting the values and things like that, I just have a copy in the combat itself, and the original player's stats are not modified. The only thing that gets updated are the life points and the mana points at the end of the combat. But everything else, so intelligence, strength, constitution, etc., all of that remains the same. That's the simple part, I would say. That's also quite okay. There is one gimmick that I come to when I explain the equipment, because as mentioned, the item itself, so for example, this Elder Sword, this also has stats. And now if I want to know, for example, how much damage does an entity have, I need to consider the stats component of the entity. Plus, I need to consider all the stats of the equipment of the entity. And the way I currently solve that, which at least for me, it makes sense. So there is an equipment component, and that one is simply an entity pack of items. And then item itself, again, has a stats component and some other components like a name, I don't know, graphic component for graphical representation and things like that. But the important part here is that an item has stats. And in the end, I think we saw that before in the combat screen. Yes, for the combat, for example, the total stats of the player is then the stats component that he has, plus the additional bonus of the entire equipment that he has. So I distinguish here between the character attributes, let's say, and the equipment that he has. And the equipment I simply get from the equipment component. So all of that is not super complicated, I would say, and is working also quite well. But one problem that I have is the life points and mana points. I'm glad that I made a video and there was this bug appearing that we saw before, that I had more life than maximum life, so I can easily debug it, because let me explain it. So let's say our character has 10 life. That is the configuration that we made. And in Masamune currently, and I'm not sure if I keep that, there is also an attribute which is called Constitution, which gives you, I don't know, let's say it gives you, to make it easy, 2 hit points per every Constitution point that you have. So if we have 0, then our total life would be 10. If we have a Constitution of 1, then our total life would be 12. Now, the way at least I want to solve it is that when you get some bonus statistic from an item, so let's say we equip this Elder Sword, that gives you a bonus to the Constitution of +5. Maybe it also gives a bonus to the life points of +10, something like that. So our total life at the end here would be 10 life plus 10 would be 20, plus 5 times 2 would be 10. So that would be 30 in total. That would be the maximum, let's also call that the total maximum life that we would have after we have equipped the item. And now, here's where I obviously do something wrong, at least at some point. Now we have also our normal life. And that has any value. It could be the maximum life, but could also be lower. And the way I want to solve it is that when, let's say currently we have a life of 10 and a maximum life of 10. If now, due to the bonus, our maximum life increases to 30, I also want to increase the life to 30, because in my opinion, it's a little bit weird that when I have 100% of my hit points and I get a bonus to my hit points, that suddenly I don't have, again, the maximum amount. Because if I would keep it at 10, I would just have 30% of my hit points. That, in my opinion, does not make sense. I think some games handle it like that. So you basically need to heal up to get to the full bonus that you have. But I want to keep it to the maximum. And the way I currently solve it, but obviously I don't do that everywhere, is that whenever the constitution or the life bonus somehow gets modified, so for example, we equip an item, then I get the current percentage that I have on my life. So that would be maximum life divided by the life, and that is whatever, could be 100%, could be 50%. Then, let's make it like this. So that would be the first step, calculating the percentage that I have at the moment. Then in the second step, I modify the maximum life. So the maximum life goes from, in our example, from 10 to 30. And now in the third step, I set the life to the maximum life times the life percentage that we calculated in step 1. In theory, that should work, I would say. If I'm wrong, please let me know. But in theory, that should work. The problem here is a little bit that, as mentioned, because currently I have a typo here. Currently, the problem is that the life is not just modified by a maximum life bonus, it's also modified by the constitution. So most likely in that second step here, I would need to have a look. Maybe I don't consider the constitution, or maybe I consider something twice, because I think we had more life than we had maximum life available, which should be impossible. So that was obviously a bug. And yeah, that's here. So the split up between life and constitution, I'm not 100% sure if I would keep that, because to be honest, if I would remove it, it's basically the same, because all items which currently would give a constitution bonus, they would just need to give a bonus to the maximum hit points. That has exactly the same effect. So there would be no difference in that. And that, first of all, would make it easier for my struggling here with this life calculation when we gain some bonuses there or lose some bonuses. That would make it easier. Also, the user interfaces in general would be a little bit easier as well, because I have one less line of attributes that I need to show, so we would have more space available for something else. But of course, might also be more interesting to have that attribute available from a player perspective. I'm not 100% sure. I think, at least for now, I try to keep it. But obviously, I need to rethink here how that is working. And the second thing that I want to mention, and would like to get some feedback ideally, is that currently I have two different representation of the statistics. So let me get this Elder Sword again. So I have two solutions currently, and I'm not sure which one I should keep. So the first one is in the status UI. There you see the base attribute of the player, so a constitution of 5 and an intelligence of 8. And we see the total bonus of the equipment. There we see that our current equipment is just a sword, and we would get a bonus of 5. So in total, the player has a constitution of 10, an intelligence of 9, and an attack of 3. And in this specific screen here, currently I still distinguish here, and I show here the base statistics and a separate row or column, actually a separate column for the bonus stats. The other solution would be, and that is the one that I use, I think also in the inventory view. Exactly. So here I can show that it's the same in the shop interface. Here I'm showing the combination. So I show the base statistic of the player plus the equipment directly. I don't have a green number. The reason why I do it here is that when I compare the current equipment, so for example here, the current equipment would be this Elder Sword, and I can remove it, and then it shows some numbers here, what I would lose or how much better the next weapon would be that I would select in this item list. And in me, that would be a little bit too much if I have here, for example, a constitution of 5, then a green number plus 5, because that's the bonus of our current equipment, and then maybe another red number minus 5, or would I maybe remove the plus 5 that I'm showing here? So that was for me, when I tested it, a little bit confusing. And I went with the approach that I simply combine here everything together and just really show the status difference of the currently selected items that I have here. So those are the two possibilities. I can combine the statistics and show them, so base plus bonus together, or I can do it like in the status overview, that I have the base, the bonus, and then in the shop and also in the inventory, I would need, I don't know, maybe update the bonus column or do something else. I'm not sure what is the best solution. I have both ways implemented, and personally, yeah, not 100% sure how I will solve it. Anyway, that's it what I wanted to show to you. If someone has some experience with this statistics stuff, maybe there's a better solution to cover the attributes of a character, the bonuses and so on, and the equipment. Maybe there's an easier solution. I don't know. Then also please let me know. The way I do it, as mentioned, it's working, but I know that I have this bug or this problem with the hit points calculation because of the constitution attribute that I have there. So there I need to have a look again. Other than that, what I want to work on next is in this main menu, I would say, in the game, there is a quest menu option, which currently does nothing. So there I want to show up then the quest information, so that you have the latest information of the main quest, what you need to do, and also an overview of all the side quests that you currently have available and did not finish. So like a quest log. That is the next thing that I will work on and that I want to implement. And then most likely I will add some additional content, I would say. So most likely the third and fourth map. That would be it for the main game, I would say. So that is what I developed like 20 years ago in C++ in the Windows console. So I need 2 additional maps. I need then a special boss fight, also the flower that you can collect from the flower girl, so the side quest that you can complete it. That will be most likely the next thing that I will work on. Of course, some additional content, so additional items, spells, and so on, things like that. And other than that, the final thing for me would be then a save system, which should not be too difficult. So I think that should be rather easy to implement. And also a cutscene logic. I don't have that here available, but I want to have some little bit of an introduction story before you start in the village. Maybe like back in the day in Secret of Mana, just some tiled map, camera pans through different maps, and then just some text which tells you about the story, where you are, what happened, and yada, yada, yada. And then also, of course, in-game cutscenes. So for example, when you are then in this last forest map, where the main quest, where you go to this boss of the main quest, there when you enter a specific area, then I have something in mind that 2 enemies appear and special dialogue and things are happening. And this cutscene stuff, or this cinematic stuff, that one I still need to implement. I don't have that yet available. And when I have that, I think those should be the main features that I need for everything. Then it's really just some polishing with getting up a main menu, stuff like that, to really finalize then this tiny little game, the main story that I have in mind. And yeah, if I'm motivated, or maybe other people are motivated and want to see more, then I will work on something in addition, add some more main story content and things like that. But for me to close up at least this initial project, that would be just this tiny little main quest, as mentioned, those 4 tiled maps in total, and the side quest with the flower girl. Then I would be very happy if I can complete that. And goal would be to have that available in this year. And I think that should be feasible. I think I'm not too far away from that. Currently, I can work once every week, once every other week. So that's not a lot, but still, usually I get things done on that single evening. And yeah, could be that maybe by mid of this year I'm done. But let's see. Yeah, that's it. Thanks for watching. Have a nice weekend and bye-bye.